Hello, YouTube. Today I will talk about a subject that I have been studying for over 4 decades now. It's a very interesting subject, and we're speaking about the Nagas, the amazing creatures of Hindu mythology. You see, Hindu mythology is a rich and fascinating world, filled with incredible stories about gods, goddesses, deities, creatures, and places that attract the attention of many people from all over the world. One of the most intriguing creatures in this mythology are the Nagas, snake people, who, according to legends, lived in the subterranean cities of Patala and Gogavati. Nagas in Hindu mythology, semi-divine creatures with a serpentine body and one or more human heads. The Nagas were considered to be the children of Kadru, Kashyapa's wife, and constantly feuded with the birds and their king Garuda, born of Kashyapa's other wife, Vinata. The Nagas owned the underworld, Patala, where their capital, Bhogavati, is located and where they guard the untold treasures of the earth. Nagas are almost always associated with the aquatic world too. Certain habitats appear in the epics. For example, the underground lake Patala, sometimes called the underground kingdom of Nagaloka or Patalaloka, with many underground palaces, or simply the lower kingdom of the same name. A number of sources indicate that the kingdom of the Nagas is located immediately under the base of the divine Mount Meru, and the infernal receptacles, so to say, are located under the serpent's dwelling. However, there may be also descriptions of celestial Nagas guarding palaces, sacred Nagas giving rain, terrestrial Nagas draining rivers, and hidden Nagas guarding treasures. In the first book of Mahabharata, Adi Parve, the Nagas are described as living on the earth. Then Brahma opened the earth and they descended under it. Having moved to the underworld, Patala, the Nagas erected magnificent palaces for themselves, sparkling with gold and precious stones. The wise serpent Vasuki became the king of the Nagas and ruled in their underground city of Bhogavati, again full of treasures unseen on the surface of our planet. Nagas are considered sages and magicians capable of reviving the dead and changing their appearance. In human form or shape, Nagas often live among humans, and their Nagini, females, famous for their beauty, often become the wives of mortal kings and heroes. Thus, the hero of Mahabharata, Ashwathaman, the son of Drona, married the Nagini girl. The Nagini princess Ulupi was the wife of Arjuna, and the Nagini Kumudvati was the wife of Kushi, the son of Rama. The Nagas were first mentioned at the dawn of Hinduism and Buddhism. As a result, beliefs in them spread throughout the territories of those countries where these religions prevail. If you look into the ancient Indian myths, you can find out the secret of the appearance of these creatures. According to legends, Kashyapa was the grandson of the great god Brahma and had 13 wives. The 3 main spouses gave birth to gods and demons in marriage, but the rest gave birth to strange creatures. Among them were the Nagas. Their mother is called Kadru. They resembled huge snakes that had a human face and torso and lived in Patala, that mysterious forbidden world where again they have incredible wealth. Maybe this is what the events of Kipling's Mowgli were based on, where the author talked about the cobra, the keeper of treasures. The chief among the Nagas was Vasuki the snake, who was famous for his wisdom and insight. By the way, I want to note that in Asian countries, unlike in Europe, the snake is not a symbol of treachery and evil. On the contrary, it embodies knowledge, composure, and power. In the subterranean worlds under the surface, the Nagas even founded their own city of Govati, which I mentioned before, and also extended their power to the waters commanded by the god Varuna. According to Indian legends, the great Nagas have 3, 6, 9 or more heads, much like the Russian mythical serpent of wonderful fairy tales, Zmei Gorinich. And they possess knowledge that a human being cannot learn, and also guard sacred places where treasures are stored. There are many interesting legends about the Nagas. One of them notes how favorable the gods are to these creatures. One day the Gandharvas, who were considered relatives of the Nagas, but had beautiful voices and shapes, decided to conquer the underworld where the half snakes or half serpents lived. Then the Nagas turned to the supreme deity Vishnu for help. He drove away the invaders and made the Nagas to be his assistants. The giant serpent Shesha, who was the brother of the Naga king, agreed to be a companion of Vishnu during his walks through the waters of the universe. It is he who is depicted with the gods, sometimes resembling a bed or a throne on which Vishnu sits. In his work Dragonography, the late Russian researcher of mythologies Sklerov said that in ancient times the priests of India believed that the whole universe rests on Shesha. This serpent in the images has 11 heads, although it is often called a 1,000-headed one. According to legend, he had the ability to foresee events by the stars, and even once decided to transfer his talent to the sage Garga, who later became an outstanding astronomer. Many ancient tribes considered the Nagas to be their patrons, and therefore either called themselves the same way or had the root Nag in their name. This can be noticed in our time studying Indian place names. A number of geographical points of this country have preserved the memory of the worship of the Nagas. One of the Indian districts has the name of Nagadvipa, which can be literally translated as the land of the Nagas. That's just how it remains a mystery, after whom the region is named and who is associated with it, whether it was real people or mythical creatures. According to the Puranas, source of much of Indian mythology, Nagadvipa, some translate this as Dragon Island, is one of the 7 sectors of Bharatvarsha, that is India. What can people expect from the Nagas? As the myths tell, everything depends on the person himself or herself and his or her attitude towards these creatures. If a mortal is courteous to a Naga, he may even receive a reward for loyalty and faith, but otherwise such an encounter or meeting will be no better than a collision with an angry snake. In addition, in ancient Indian epics, it is told that the Nagas, especially females, often became spouses of human beings. I already mentioned in Mahabharata about the Ashwataman who married a Nagini, and the son of Rama chose a representative of the mysterious Nagas to be his wife. It is noted that children from such unions have an aquatic nature and therefore different tenderness and beauty. Ancient myths tell that the sapphires were sacred stones of the Nagas. They resemble the color of water in their hue, and were also mined in those areas where the Naga temples were established. The shrines built in honor of the half snakes or half serpents themselves resemble a snake's body in their structure. As indicated in the sources, they stretch from the city of Bhadrava to the mines of Padara, where sapphires were mined. The Nagas and their stone could give a person wisdom and power, which is why sapphires often decorated to the headdresses of rulers or sages. The ministers of art and scientists had a special relationship with the Nagas. The half-snakes were considered to be their patrons and mentors. There is an interesting custom associated with the Nagas that existed in the ancient times. As one of the myths says, the Khmer king managed to descend into the underground kingdom of the Nagas, where he met an extraordinarily beautiful Nagini girl. The feelings turned out to be mutual, and as a gift to the man, the bride's father presented a belt decorated with an image of a snake. It was customary to give such belts, on which a snake must have been present, to the bride and groom during the wedding in order to make their union strong and happy. Now this custom has been preserved only in remote parts of Asia, but the veneration of snakes in India and neighboring countries has still not lost its relevance. Of course, there can be no unambiguous relationship to snakes. A person sees danger and strengthens them, but he has the right to decide for himself who they are for him, treacherous reptiles or guardians of age-old wisdom. This is reflected in the stories of the Nagas, who are formidable warriors who keep the secrets of the world but never forget about justice. Perhaps they are the embodiment of great mystery of nature and mankind. A number of Naga kings are named in myths, among which the most famous are the thousand-headed serpent Shesha, who supports the earth, Vasuki, used by the gods and Asuras as a rope when churning the oceans, and the Takshaka. There is an extensive cycle of Naga myths in the first book of the Mahabharata, which talks about the great snake sacrifice undertaken by King Janamejava in revenge for the murder of his father Pariksit by the king of the Nagas, Takshaka. The sacrifice was stopped by sage Astika, who was Vasuki's nephew, who used the right to express any wish. Janamejaya granted him this right because Astika blessed him. One of the legends of this cycle tells how the Nagas gained immortality by tasting Amrita, but at the same time their tongues split because they had to lick Amrita from the sharp stems of the Kushi grass. In Indian sources, the idea of divine snakes is mixed with the idea of the Nagas, the historical tribes who lived in the northwestern India before the arrival of the Aryans there. And again, Nagadvipa, also called the land of the Nagas, was considered as one of the 9 regions of Bharatavarshit, or India. A large number of Indian place names are associated with Nagas. Like I said, it is assumed that the real Nagas were tribes of the Mongol race who had a snake cobra as their totem, and that the mythological interpretation was thus superimposed on the historical basis. Well, in Buddhist mythology, the Nagas are snake-like demigods. In all likelihood, the Nagas played an important role in the mythology of the pre-Aryan India, and some Buddhologists even see their inclusion in Buddhist mythology as a sign of the non-Aryan origin of Buddhism. Descriptions of the Nagas are found in many canonical texts. For example, in the Jatakas, Nagas are divided into two classes: living in water, in rivers and seas, and those who live on land. But Nagas can also transform into humans. They often enter into love relationship with both women and men. The descendants of these relationships are extremely gentle, again, because they have a watery essence. The Nagas are often angry. It is believed that their breath is poisonous and their gaze can bring death. So you see different descriptions of these creatures from different sources. Well, the Naga Buddhism is favorably treated and often acts as its ardent adherents. Shakyamuni himself, even before becoming a Buddha, was reborn several times in the form of a Naga. In Mahayana mythology, there are legends telling how the famous philosopher Nagarjuna obtained the Prajna Paramita Sutras from the Nagas, which they guarded until people matured to understand it. Outside India, the Nagas were compared to local snake-like deities. In Mon Khmer mythology, the Nagas live underground and in water sources, and they can transform into beautiful women, so you can see a pattern around Asia. They are regarded as potentially dangerous, possessing powerful strength and in many ways superior in their developments to humans. It is believed that most of them are demonic entities. So that's not like in India. And some even gain immortality as a result of licking the elixir of eternal life intended for deities. However, despite the fact that the most Nagas are associated with evil and people, some of them have become worthy of respect and worship as they are associated with the activities of certain gods. In other countries, they talk about the seven-headed Ananta, also known as Shesha, who supported the god of Vishnu on a bed of snake rings floating on the boundless cosmic ocean, while God dreamed of the existence of the universe. Okay. Also, Vasuka mentioned again, according to legend, his body was wrapped around the sacred Mount Meru, so that the gods and demons could rock it by dragging the snake by its tail and head. All these manipulations were supposed to lead to the churning of the primordial ocean on which it was located and the production of the drink of immortality, ambrosia. In addition, Vasuka was a necklace of the god Shiva and an assistant in the fight against evil demons. Naked Mucha Linda protected the meditating Buddha from bad weather, for which he wrapped himself around him 7 times and covered the family with its hooded heads like an umbrella. But this was not the end of relationship between the Nagas and the Buddha. There is a legend that the Buddha preached one law for people and another for the gods. For this last, esoteric was kept in heaven and the palaces of snakes, who had several centuries later handed it over to the monk Nagarjuna, the founder of the first philosophical school of Northern Buddhism, Madhyamika, whose origin in India dates back to the 2nd century Common Era. It is believed that the Buddha of the future, Maitreya, before his appearance in the human world, is perfected in heaven under the guidance of the sacred Naga, in order to prepare for the enlightenment on earth, which, as in the time of the Shakyamuni Buddha, will take place under a tree guarded by a large Naga. Legends about the Nagas are found not only in Buddhist and Hindu epics. Quite often, Nagas lived in a human form or shape among humans. Similarly, people sometimes lived with the Nagas in their world. In both cases, full-fledged offspring were born from the marriages of humans and Nagas. Very interesting, because in different Asian countries you get basically the same legend. As an example of this is a sage Astika, as an example of the offsprings, between the two sentient beings, so to say. Astika, who was born from the marriage of Vasuki's sister Nagini Jaratkaru and sage Jaratkaru, and left behind children and grandchildren. The Nagini women, famous for their beauty, as we have said, became spouses of mortal kings and heroes. In the Cambodian epic, the daughter of the Naga king married an Indian Brahmin. From this marriage, the people of Cambodia descended. That's why the Cambodians today say, "We are born of Naga." Legends like the Cambodian one are found among the tribes inhabiting South India and the Aborigines of Australia. According to their account, the Nagas inhabited a huge continent somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, but it went under the water, and its remnants formed the Indonesian archipelago and Australia. From all of the above, it can be concluded that Nagas are people, no matter how fantastic appearance mythology ascribes to them. But Ashwatthama's marriage, well, it's like a pattern in the stories throughout Asia, different countries. In Indian sources, the idea of the Nagas, divine snakes, is mixed with the ideas of the tribes, like I said, from northwestern India, and this should be studied more. It's very, very interesting to find out more evidence about it. There's also an account about the Scythians who descended from the Nagas, and it's extremely entertaining and may have a basis given the snake-legged appearance of the goddess Api, as well as the statues mentioned before. It gives rise to ideas about other serpent beings in human mythology throughout the world. Well, and what were Nagas doing around the world? Well, they had an extensive field of activity, but it's based on the management of certain forces of nature. In most countries of the Buddhist and Hindu world, the snake deity was responsible for the power over the rain, and of course, and that meant the harvest. But in Nepal, it is believed that the Nagas are able to protect human dwelling from an earthquake. According to one of the myths, the founder of the Khmer state, Praton, was able to enter their world by sitting on a tree that sank underground every night. And there he married the daughter of their king, who gave him a sampot, waist garment, with the image of a Naga. Just to add to what I said before, in the old days, the groom had to give the bride such a sampot. Previously, during the wedding ceremony, the bride and the groom had their front teeth cut off a little, so they would not turn into Nagas. The Nagini women is the central image of the Khmer dynasty, which is very interesting in itself. According to one of them, to some of the myths in that land, the Khmer king had to spend nights with the many-headed Nagini, and his well-being depended on it. The Nagas played an important role in Hindu mythology, as I mentioned, and have different names in different cultures of the world. There are Nagas in India, Amaru in South America, Quetzalcoatl, crimson snakes in Mexico, Jadi, snakes in Egypt, dragons, and so forth in China and other lands. All these creatures have one thing in common. They are a symbol of wisdom and power. Legends say that the Nagas have special abilities and can take the form of a human or a reptile at will. And this is what's interesting. They created underground cities all over the world and are ruled over by the dragon kings. Under their leadership, numerous religious buildings were built, including colossal pyramids and bas-reliefs with snake motifs. And if you look at my videos, you will see interesting confirmation of that from different parts of the world, from Eurasia, South America, and so forth. The word Naga comes from the Sanskrit and means snake, especially cobra. Well, according to other sources, the underground Naga kingdoms of Patala and Bhogavati are well hidden, are impossible to find. But in India, a lot of people believe that there is an entrance to this underground labyrinth in the Sheshna well located in Benares. According to herpetologist and researcher Sherman Minton, this entrance actually exists and is a circular shaft of 40 steps, at the bottom of which there is a closed stone door with a bas-relief of a cobra. Well, there is also a mystical shrine in Tibet called Patala, which stands on an ancient cave and a tunnel system stretching across the Asian continent and possibly beyond. Look at my videos about tunnels under Asia, Siberia, Russia, and so forth. Many people believe that the secret entrances to the underground kingdoms of the Nagas are located at the bottom of wells, deep lakes, and rivers, as the Nagas are connected with water. Lake Baikal comes to mind. However, the interest in Nagas is not limited to legends and myths. The Vedic literature contains many descriptions of aircrafts called Vimana, which, according to this text, were used by the Nagas to fly, and not only in the sky, but also in outer space. This indicates that the Nagas were a very advanced species of creatures who, with incredibly sophisticated technology. You can find out more about those Vimanas in my videos about India and ancient aliens and ancient civilizations. So the Nagas, yes, amazing creatures of the Hindu mythology that live in the underground cities and are symbols of wisdom and power. Their legends are spread all over the world, and they have connections with various cultures and places. And we know that the Nagas are associated with water, and it is believed that the secret entrances to their realms are also at the bottom of wells and lakes. In addition, they possessed sophisticated technologies that allowed them to fly both in the sky and the outer space. While visiting Thailand, many tourists pay attention to the fact that it is very common to find images of strange snake-like creatures in that country. For the most part, such tourists do not have warm feelings towards reptiles. They wonder why the population of the country has given snakes, well, how can we put it, such an honorable place in their culture, and how did they, the snakes called the Nagas, they're called the Nagas here, deserve this place? Well, we already know about the meaning of the word Naga and how it is treated in India and in other places. Well, apparently Thailand also has a lot of respect for them. Also, I want to mention that the Nagas are painted in blue, green, red, black, and white, and wear a variety of clothing. For example, Shesha was depicted in a purple robe with a white necklace around his neck. And Vasuki's sister, the impeccably built Jaratkara, was dressed in beautiful clothes and decorated with jewelry. The Nagas is from the Vasuki clan. There were blue, red, and white colors. All of them possessed huge, hideous-looking torsos overflowing with deadly poison. Their names are Kotika, Manasa, Purna. The Nagas are from the Dhritarashtra family. The snakes could move as fast as the wind and were terribly venomous. Here they are: Shanku Karna, Pingalaka, Kutaramuka. I believe this is from the Mahabharata. As for their character, well, there are different stories. One was about the rains and the problem with the crops, and the Nagas helped. And if there is an earthquake, like I mentioned in Nepal, they believe they can calm it down as a compassion for living beings. They can be generous, but if they get angry, they can unleash diseases and epidemics on people, according to some beliefs. In Myanmar, formerly Burma, the snake is the essence of nature, associated with trees and sacred sites. But in Himalayan Buddhism, among other things, the Nagas are considered to be the keepers of the secret books of wisdom. Due to people's faith in the natural powers of the Nagas, rituals of worship were formed and still exist to this day. This is just some of the information about the Nagas, and I'm sure there are those who study them quite diligently, and maybe they can produce more information. But even in the far reaches of Eurasia, far away from India, you can hear stories about strange reptiles living under the surface of this earth. And I mentioned stories from the Ural Mountains and from the Soviet Ukraine, where I'm from, and other places, and about the incredible network of tunnels down below in the bowels of our planet. And I'll continue to bring you such stories. So if you like my research, if you can support my research, you'll find the links on how to do it in the description to this video. Please tell others about my channel, and thank you for your attention to my work.